My man Jermaine Ride Out Carvey, what it
Hey,
do?
man, it's wonderful to be here, man.
Hey
It's
man.
wonderful to be
Hey,
here.
part of my Thanksgiving, I don't really, participate in those imperialist holidays, but I do take every day to be thankful.
Yeah,
And I'm thankful for my co-host who's not here, Dr. Alicia Motri. But we all the time we talk about you and Carvey, Jermaine, and
oh, I
just how
appreciate that.
blessed we are to
Yeah,
have y'all on the show because it makes
same
it
here.
works together, and because we brother and sister that
Yeah,
make y'all family too. So
yeah,
it's good when it
indeed.
becomes a family affair. So it's
Yes,
love,
sir.
and I can never start the show without my P and P.
Yeah,
And people say, "What's that?" Well, the first thing is, it's in the tradition of our elders. It is customary to get permission from an elder to speak. I call my mother Helen Webb, and she's given me permission to speak to the community. But in addition to permission, she's given the other P, and that's the prayer. And when I told her about the show, she said, "Oh, I don't know how that's going to go." She said, "But Lord, bless that reverend that's coming in. Give him the words to say that's going to help heal Black Milwaukee, to allow us to deal with, especially these next 4 years that's coming through."
Mm,
And I said, we don't have a spirit of fear. We're going to get through it, mama.
praise
But I
God.
said, but we're going to accept that prayer and we get it through.
Praise God.
In addition to that, we always like to say what we are, ancestor, who we like to put this, the content of the show in. Baba, I'm going to put you on the spot before I even introduce you. I want you
Hmm.
to think of an ancestor who you say, I want their spirit to overcome and overwhelm and to help guide our words. I got somebody, but I want to get the floor to you first.
I immediately comes to mind, and this is not a relative, but an ancestor and someone who has just made a major impact on this city, particularly around this topic of consciousness, and that's Dr. William Rogers.
Ah,
Dr. William Rogers. So I
I
definitely
say.
would like to evoke his spirit. Yeah.
Listen, I had somebody, but I'm not going to even say anything
All
else
right.
because I remember me and Brother Quasi, known better as Horace Kraft Jr.,
Yes.
we would do a show sometimes, and
Hmm.
mostly him, and I would come on and just a wealth of wisdom. And
Yes.
sometimes, as a reminder to the people, make sure that those elders that are there, that you are sapping that tree, you are getting that level of knowledge.
Absolutely.
So oftentimes we have so many elders who have a wealth of knowledge and want to pour, but no ears to listen.
That's and you know what, Kwaku, that and in evoking, Dr. Rogers, he was a perfect example of that elder who had the as a teacher elder as well,
Mm.
who had the ability to humbly bring information, understanding, and knowledge to the people, make it palatable. Make it something that the people can receive. So that's an important skill. Sometimes we want to just bust people over the head
Yeah.
with our truth, and it's not taking anybody anywhere. So just appreciate those elders that had the capacity to do that.
And that's a gift.
It's a gift.
That's a gift because it's not easy to season your words where they still have the effectiveness that you need without losing it.
Yes.
Hey, before we get into the show, what I do want to do is I want to talk about something that's free for the community on December 10th and December 12th. And now on December 10th, it's going to be at Clinton Rose. On December 12th, it's going to be at Wilson Park Senior Citizen Center. And it's a holiday healing summit. And it's just dealing with ways to cope during these holidays. And the reason why I mention anything on this show usually is because it's free. And it's something that's for the community. And when we talk about WNOV, I think the responsibility that we have specifically for our people is to talk about what do we have for you, but then also that's free. But like I said, if it's free, that don't mean it's free to put on. It just means somebody else thought enough of it to subsidize it to make it free for you. So again, on December 10th at Clinton Rose Center and December 12th at Wilson Park Senior Citizen Center, there's a holiday healing summit. Got some great speakers that's on there. So we'll talk about that more as we get a little bit closer to, or after we talk about that, just as far as dealing with the holidays. But it's just a beautiful day to be in Milwaukee. And when I think about the guests that I have on now, I'm in. I hate to say it like this, Jermaine, but you know how like you meet somebody and you be in awe, but you try to act hard, like you really, you got to keep your manhood in a sense. But real talk is like some people you meet and you be like, man, I'm blessed to have met them. And when I was going through school, I was at UW Milwaukee, and they were talking about we're the premier urban school for urban education, and I'm thinking like, wow, I'm getting a great education, and so I go through school. Now I'm at my practicum part, so now you're going into the schools and you're really in the buildings. And one of the buildings that they put me in was the old Malcolm X,
Mm.
and Malcolm X at that time it had a population of our children who sometimes is hard for the teachers and educators to deal with. But they're good children,
Mhm.
but sometimes you don't see the best of them.
That's
But
right.
what happened was sometimes, like when they get in trouble, instead of suspending them, they say, you know what, we gonna create something. I saw two men. One was this man, small in stature, but he was military strong, and walked like that, dressed like that, talked like that. It was a strong presence. Then there was this other big dude, had these long dreads and whatnot. And it was called, I believe, Exodus Academy.
Yes.
And when I went down there, because some of the students I was working with, when they would get suspended, instead of getting sent home, they would go down there. And I would go into these classes, and these young brothers that was causing crazy chaos upstairs, man, they sitting in the classroom. They not sitting down like stiff boards because they scared, but I mean they actively learning. They entertain. It's like old KRS-One edutainment. Like you could see the entertainment value, but it was a strong education component. And what would happen is once the children would do good, they would get to go back to the regular class. Well, then some of the students would act up on purpose just so they could come back down. And so I was like, man, I got to get to know these brothers who's doing it. And one I have right here. And a lot of the community already know him. I don't even really need to introduce Baba Derick Rogers, but I'm going to just say a few things about him that, I think is more important than even some of his educational things. Because one thing when I asked him, like what some of the things you want to highlight, the first thing he says, I'm a husband, I'm a father, a grandfather, and then a son. And I love the tribute that when you hear him talk about his father, the reverence that he had for his father, it warms my heart. So to Larry and Doris, and he said they just chilling up over the hill on 19th place, right around the way. And so that means you're a person of the community. But he worked at MPS for a long time. And another reason, like not only did I get to meet him at Exodus, but I got a chance to kind of like work with him all throughout life and whatnot, like that, just interact. One of the last places that we had a heavier interaction was when he was the director of the 414 Life. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times people talk about that now, the wonderful part of this program. But I said the one thing what we had to do in giving people their flowers, and I don't just say this because you're here, but it's like I always tell people, if you're going to be the first, or if you're the inaugural, you got to come out with a bang. You got to come out so people understand what it is. And it was under your tutelage, under your direction, you put together a staff of people, that most people would just say the misfits or the usual suspects or whatnot, and did so many things that even the Milwaukee Police Department was jealous of. And, we talk about, we had a caller earlier named Al, and he was like, he hate when like two powerful entities attack each other. And I was so frustrated when I would see the police jealous of 414 Life because of some of the results they were getting that they didn't get, because they was like, well, they shouldn't be getting this, or they shouldn't be getting these props like they get. And I just loved how you were able to bring that group together. And even though we see the remnants of it today, we talk about the start of it and everything like that. But in addition, and this is what we're going to really talk about today, he is a minister and a founder of Milwaukee Black Liberation Theology Project. It's a collective of clergy and laypersons exploring liberatory Christian education teaching with predominantly Black churches. So with that, I bring in my big brother, my mentor, one of my local heroes, and I just say local because I've met him locally, but he's nationally known, Baba Derick Rogers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So it took a year, but we finally got you in here.
That's all right. I appreciate you so much, man. First of all, I'm humbled, by everything you said. To God be the glory. For some of the opportunities I've had to be in the presence of some powerful people, because if I have any height in terms of impact today, it's because I stand on the shoulders of many giants, local and globally, and I'm just thankful for individuals like you, just your acumen. I don't think people really understand. You are one of the most prolific thinkers, scholars, and healers in this nation, and the manner in which you bring it. I refer to you as the soul provider, SOUL, and there's a reason for that, because of what you're bringing, how you touch the people, and the manner in which you bring it, from God, and definitely dedicated to the people. So I'm just happy to be here.
I appreciate that. I wish I could bring that piece into my own home, boy. These teenagers getting me, Jermaine,
Yeah, I
boy.
know
Oh,
it
they
is.
put the haze on me. Hey, but no, we talk about
Yeah.
this, and I always this is what I tell my family. Honestly, I be like, when we having trouble in the house, I said, listen,
Mm.
I said, it's normal for people to be frustrated and to argue, but I said, listen, there's too many enemies outside
Mm.
for us to be enemies or not on one accord in the house. I said, we don't know what can happen at any time, so we need to be ever ready, ever vigilant, because the outside pressures are there. And so when we talk about that, one of the things that we wanted to talk about was our show, though, was just like the psychological pressure that it is for a Black person, to live in America on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
When you think about that, like, and I don't even really want to ask, I got questions, but I just want us
Yeah.
to have a conversation. Like,
Yeah.
when we think about this, is like, when was the first time where you knew, like, man, this country, as great as the things they have out there, when did I recognize, man, it wasn't really for me? Like, I was in a
Hmm.
second class citizenship.
I think for me, and some of it was actually in retrospect, probably when I was in my early 20s, and I came into the Milwaukee Public Schools in the educational system and began as a paraprofessional and was working with, predominantly, Black males and, the usual issues and all of this. But what it made me reflect back on is 1976. I was one
Mm.
of the original youth who were a part of Chapter 220
Ah,
when the Brown Nicolay first, and then a week later Brown Deer
I was
school
wondering how you
systems.
got out to Brown
Yep,
Deer.
that would
220.
bust from 19th and
Mm.
Congress out
Yeah.
to Brown Deer, and I think it was that 6-year journey. In retrospect, it was really interesting that how, even though I thought I was buffered from some things relative to, the effects of, white supremacy, white hegemony, white domination, the psychological effects of all of this, because I was an athlete and because I was a 4.0 student and
Mhm.
all of this. But the other 39 young people who rode that bus with me,
Mm.
they struggled
Yeah.
out there. Now, I didn't struggle at the time, at least not in the material sense, or not, at least not in the day to day, because of those buffers of athlete and
Mhm.
the scholarship piece. But when I look back a few years later, and some of my behaviors, some of my approaches to life, some of my decision making, the value system that I had taken on, it had damaged me. It had really damaged me. And it was at that point that I really realized that something wasn't right.
So I want you to talk about that, because, like, when we think about, like, what constitutes success in America, I said most of those things are the things that's dysfunctional. The things that we idolize, the materialistic goods, and the things that we deem as success.
Yeah.
Most of those things, I think, are counterproductive to a true healthy society, because it's such a dog eat dog world. What
It
what was
is.
it for you?
Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that up, because that's one of the things that I've spent a lot of time in dialogue with people about over the past, probably the last year and a half to 2 years, how these definitions and terms, the way we view uh, things such as high achievement or
Uh-huh.
Black success, Black excellence, these are the types of things that I think we've gotten a twisted notion of. And I think chasing some of these things, the constant pursuit of these things, and seeking our own psychological fortification behind some of our definitions of these things have been quite damaging, because we never want to associate, or we rarely want to associate success with cooperative
Mm.
things, where,
That individual.
yeah, there's always the individual element to it. Nothing communal, nothing cooperative, nothing where you're talking about people working together, collective work and responsibility to achieve a goal. It's oftentimes just, what is the status? What is my title? What is a position? It's aspirational.
Yeah.
And I think those terms have been extremely dangerous and damaging. And it's something that we have to continue to work with.
I always think of it like this, like, we sometimes play with terms. Like, if it's that white girl at the black strip club, she's white chocolate. If it's the brother the white boy who can play ball, he's white chocolate. But I was like, I think the real white chocolate becomes us.
Yes.
It's the brothers who assimilate more and more into this society. It's almost like, I remember the first business book I read, because I was like, okay, business, who got to make this money.
Yeah.
It was this guy, and he was like, why should white guys have all the fun? He's
Mhm.
got this big cigar,
Mhm.
this image of American success of what it is. And when I'm looking, I'm like, how is that different than anything else? Than this. So I don't care if it's a billionaire, if it's a white billionaire or a black billionaire, it all goes into classism and structurism. So I was like, why would I want to follow into that? But when you look at anybody who's an immigrant, the longer you are in that society, the more you conform, the more you stay. And even though we know Roots has some of its issues with authenticity and some things like that, one of the things that always got me was I remember when Kunta Kinte first saw Belle, his wife, and it was this little pretty thing, that American society would say is pretty.
Yeah.
And then she was like, "Oh, you like her?" And he was like, "No, I like another kind of woman." And he started to describe her features and stuff like that. And then he ended it. He said, "You look like you are African." And she said, "I ain't no African.
Running from
My
it.
daddy ain't no African. My granddaddy ain't no African. We done been here." And I'm thinking like, you didn't understand that was a compliment, but because of the society puts you in this thing. And I know we got to come up to a break a little bit. So I wanted to introduce this term, and we're going to come back to the end. I know, it's Bobby Wright Jr. He didn't coin it, but when he talks about it specifically, him and Amos Wilson talks about menticide. And so when you see side, you think of suicide, homicide. But what menticide is the deliberate and systemic destruction of a group's mind, with the ultimate objection being the extrapolation of the group. Yes. So I want you to think about that. When we talk about suicide, we know that's the killing of self. We talk about homicide, the killing of other. Fratricide, killing of my brother. But with this menticide, we talking about it's a systemic. So we talk about systemic racism, things of that nature, to destroy a group's mind. So the more we can get everybody thinking individually,
that's it.
My goodness,
that's it. And I can speak on it.
Yes,
now. And I think again that ties right back to the damage that these definitions have done. Because I just want to give a quick example, something recent, which speaks to this menticide. I was reading the comments, which I don't often, and it was relative to an individual I care a great deal about, who has done some incredible things on behalf of the people in the Milwaukee community, and may have been gotten into a situation where now they're being attacked, and all of the things that come along with that, with taking the risk on behalf of the people. And in the commentary, I saw someone say, "Well, I bet he or she is they about broke now. They about broke now." When I think about that term,
well, hold tight, because I hear the music coming
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Caller, I
Absolutely.
know we got you there. I hope you hold on for us. We're going to get you back in on the other side. We're going to let Baba finish that comment. And caller, we coming right to you. We're talking about a restoration of conscience. How does the black man survive in this wilderness of North America known as the United States of America? We see you on the other side with Nyumba Upendo, WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM.
The holidays, and holiday trips, and holiday toys, and holiday bonding. And it all comes together in a Chevrolet.
Find your red tag. Get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Silverado 1500 pickups. Plus, get $3,750 total value on this Silverado when you trade in an eligible vehicle. Chevrolet. Together, let's...
I'm Stephen Hopkins, Program Manager for Critical Response Team. I'm at WNOV right now.
So, Stephen, what's something simple that you're thankful for today?
Being alive and free.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Is there something you're looking forward to this holiday season?
Seeing my loved ones and, spending some time with them.
Perfect.
Amen.
WNOV, this your boy Jermaine Rideout, producer extraordinaire. What am I most thankful for? I am thankful for family, my kids, my loved ones, my mom and dad, health and strength to be alive, the staff and management of WNOV. I'm very, very, very grateful for them. And man, that's what I'm grateful for.
One more thing, man.
Yes, sir.
Are you excited for this holiday season, man?
I'm most definitely excited.
What's one thing you're looking forward to during this holiday season?
Eating everything, man. I'm looking forward.
Hey, I'm Deslyn. I'm here at WNOV, and I'm from United Garden Homes, Inc.
So Desmond, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What holiday memories are you most thankful for?
I'm most thankful for the holiday memories and spending time with my family, my mom, my dad, and all of the Smith and Adams family. Hey, that's what I'm thankful for.
One more question.
Yes.
Is there something you looking forward to this holiday season?
I'm looking for some peace and quiet and family time.
Give me some of that.
What's up? It's Jamiroquai Killer with the Black Policy Initiative. I'm here at WNOV.
Yo, Jamiroquai. So, what's one thing you've learned this year that you're thankful for?
And one thing I learned that I'm thankful for is to not be prideful and to not think about myself all the time. You know, I want to spend next year pouring into everybody else except for me, because when I give to others, it always come back.
Can you share a time when you share love to someone?
Man, every day. You
Right.
know, I got a lot of people around me that help fuel my fire and help make me better. And I want to keep them around. I want to keep them energized because I need.
Hello, my name is Johnny L. Jones, one of the founders of Experience MKE, who proudly presents to all the All Black Experience, which is happening 11/29/24. We are also familiar with the All White Experience in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
So, Johnny, how do you show appreciation to your loved ones during the holidays?
I show my appreciation and gratitude toward the loved ones throughout the holiday, well as the year. Pick up the phone, check on people, because you really never know what anyone is going through, and just you reaching out saying hello, how you doing, need anything. You just don't understand sometimes how much that impact other people sometimes.
Hello, I'm Hope Manuel of Milwaukee Hope Initiative.
So Hope, I got a question for you. Sure. What holiday memory are you most thankful for?
Probably the big Christmases we used to have when I was younger. All the family was there, all the cousins, you know, my both grandparents were still around,
Right.
and, you know, just riding bikes through the living room that we got that morning for Christmas.
Video or just hit Facebook or YouTube. You are listening to Dr. Amawasi along with Baba Derick Rogers talking about a restoration of consciousness. How does the black man survive within America, understanding the system that was not built for us? Now, when we left off, Baba, you were talking about the term menticide as far as how these groups, how a system tries to take away a group's ability to think, to really destroy them. If they don't destroy them physically, how do they destroy them mentally? So they assimilate so much they don't even know who they are. You were kind of talking about the importance of terminology and how that's been used against us.
Language is oftentimes weaponized against us, or in terms of the way that we take on language and the way that we appropriate language. And I was, and we talked about terms like, high achievement and success, and black success, black excellence, how we utilize those terms. But I was also thinking about how recently I thought about, one of our community warriors, for the people, was referenced in a comment, in the newspaper as being broke. Maybe because now they don't have certain means of subsistence, or financially, or their fiat or whatever, they're broke. But it made me think back, and looking at that term, I said, okay, if we go back to African enslavement, okay, who are the individuals who were broken? All right, if we look at it, in order to condition an African to be a valuable slave, you had to take away their culture, their cultural memory. You had to take away all the things, and they became this being that was very loyal to Massa. They became this being that was willing to do whatever it took to be in the favor of the master, and all of the plantation politics. Those were considered to be the broken slaves. So when we fast forward to 2024 and we look at individuals who resist, individuals who take risk on behalf of the people in an effort to transform, the conditions of this community and our people, who radically or in a very revolutionary manner are willing to attack, institutions, or not be afraid to speak truth to power. To refer to them as broke or broken is really a flip in the terminology, because the broken ones were something else. Those were the ones who were doing everything. So we have to really look at that now and say, okay, in 2024, in our community, how do we play into that terminology? Are we willing to, with all the material benefits and degrees and knowledge and credentials that we carry as we move in this society as Blacks, what types of risks are we willing to take? What types of work are we doing on behalf of the people? So the question becomes, who really is broke? Is the question that I ask.
We got to
look at that. We got to redefine that. And I don't mean to be unnecessarily, a negative energy behind that, but I really think in terms of our mental health, we have to examine that and really look at how we some of these terms are a little too narrow. We got to look at some of this.
Let's go to our caller, Jermaine. We still got a caller on. Caller, you're on. You got a question or a comment?
I appreciate being in your presence, and it's an honor, man, Kwaku. Brother Tyrone W. speaking, a.k.a. Rafiq Muhammad Abdullah, Brother Kwaku, Brother Jermaine Ryder, Carvey, Brother Rogers. Good to have you on the air, man. Good
Thank
to
you, sir.
In the presence. I appreciate what I'm hearing here. I want you to keep in the backdrop of your mind there, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we had just about almost everything. I mean, our own buses, airplanes, hospitals, schools, all that. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, Archer, Pine, we had everything, and they bombed us, man. But I wanted to say that because what you're speaking about, and I've chopped it up with Michelle Bryan about this, NFL and NBA mostly, not so much Major League Baseball, but NFL, NBA, we got that. But now because we got to take, those with the big Aaron Rodgers money, and those, we got to take care of those. If we decide to do it, we've got to take care of the fellow that's coming out of college next, because he's going to want to go somewhere. He's got to show his talents now. And then we got to take care of the fellow that's always fumbling the ball and can't we got too much butter on his hands, or he can't catch the ball. So, if we're going to do that, every team has got to say, well, look here, NFL, we're not going to do it. They've got to stand up in solidarity, walk away, take care of the lowest, those with the big money. And you're talking about the summit with Ali and Davis and Kareem and, Jim Brown and Russ and all them. Tommy Smith and John Carlos, Muhammad Ali, Jesse Owens. So, it's got to stop. The ones with the big money have got to come down and make sure that the little ones are taken care of if we do that, because once you get past the halftime show, once they see that we're not going to play on the field no more, they're going to get right with it, because they're going to say, well, look, there's no game being played. So there goes the halftime show. There goes the TV market. There goes our profit. So somebody's got to come to the table and decide something. And if the players decide that they're not going to do it no more, but they've got to take care of the fellow on the lower rung and the fellow coming out of college that's looking for somewhere to go. And I'll kind of leave it there, because I could be long-winded on it. But
no, but you know what? You thanks for the call, Tyrone. I appreciate
you.
Thank
you. I appreciate you. God bless you. Love you.
Love you back. I think that goes to the point you was making, Baba, though. It's like, who's willing to be broke? And then how do we redefine what rich is? Because if you just classifying rich as money, then you could do whatever it takes to get there, and then you'll hoard that money. And I think that's what happens with a lot of our athletes. It's like, hey, you go into it and you're like, hey, I'm going to do this. But you get in that world and it becomes a bubble, and you become oblivious to a lot of those things because the money shields you. And if you want to keep doing it, you get intoxicated by it, and it blinds you, and it makes you become a different person. People say money makes you more of what you are, but it's not necessarily just becoming more of what you are, but it's more of what you're around. I want to read some from from Dr. William Amos. Then I'm going to give you the floor, because this goes into what you were saying. He was like, he said, if memory is too painful to be recalled, you're talking about our enslaved ancestors. So why don't we want to awaken that DNA, the historical DNA within us? It says, if recalling means suffering, pain, shame, guilt, and other negative things, the individual may not only deny the reality of that memory and experience, but may actually create a mythology in their places. And so when we talk about what are those things that we do to intoxicate ourselves, not to remember the past or to think about the pain of it, we engross ourselves in all of the creature comforts of commercialism, of materialism, and capitalism.
All of the accoutrements. Yeah, that's and that entire piece is reinforced by our educational system, or what I often refer to as our compulsory miseducation, which is basically which is basically what we're receiving here. And then of course, with the larger, and onset or ongoing dimensions of social media, you're going to continue to have these again, as I said earlier, you look for a psychological fortification wherever you can find it. You're looking for ways to escape, wherever you can find it. And sometimes that's escaping. There's a great deal of responsibility that comes with those memories, because not only are you remembering the pain and some of the trauma, the induced trauma that goes along with that, you're also remembering the ways that people fought. The resistance can also come up in our ancestral DNA as well. And that is the one that can become very scary, living in a society where, hey, I'm looking to survive and get all that I can out of things as they currently are. There's no way that I can radically imagine any other possibilities other than what is currently before me. What has society, what has status quo put in front of me? It's difficult for me to see anything else. And especially if you tell me that includes some type of resistance or fighting back against it, or you mean to tell me I might end up again broke because I fought back. That is something that's difficult for our people.
How do we do that? Because I'm thinking about what you're saying, and it takes me back to Elijah Muhammad, to Malcolm X, and it was like, who lets their enemy educate their children? And then think that something is going to be different. And then I think about the mental side, the falsification of the African conscious. I think about, like, while we are so twisted by the things that have happened to us from an emotional standpoint, that we our growth has been retarded in a way. They talk about insanity being to continue to do the same things over and over and expect different results. But yet we keep sending our students to these educations that we know is miseducation. We know it's mistreatment. We know it's maltreatment. And then this becomes the gateway to all of the other negative social determinants in adult life, from dropping out early to underemployed to unemployed to heavily incarcerated, drug use, things of that nature. How are we in this cycle, and how do we get out?
Personally, I think it's going to take a couple of things that, for example, for the little that I was able to do and so many others before me.
I'm not going to let you say little. I'm not going to let you say that, because it was
the sum of what I was able to do in some of those spaces like Exodus and, and later with transition. I think we have to do all that we can to create, I guess, what's referred to as prefigurative spaces. That means creating small spaces where we can practice the possibilities. Meaning, if you can create educational spaces, whether it be within the system, whether it be outside the system, whether it be in community, where together, intergenerationally, we are creating socialization spaces that are healthy, life-affirming, where we're able to explore how education connects to liberation, how education connects to community involvement. It starts in spaces.
See, I got to stop you there, because I hear you, and in theory, I'm like, man, this is so good. But then the practical use.
It's hard.
I see our very own people be destructive to those places that can come. And I've seen it happen even to you. When you talk about transition high school was the manifestation of what Exodus Academy, we talked about what he did with those middle school students, manifest into his own school.
Yes, sir.
And be promising. It was those people who, like, sometimes they would call it throwaway kids. It's a throwaway school. It was nobody who was a throwaway. There was different forms of learning, different ways which people could get their credits, could recover their credits, but be in an environment that was safe and that was loving. But then, I think back to, like, brother Dr. Claude Anderson wrote about what happened in Virginia with meritorious manumission, how Black people, if they wanted to be accepted by the other, they would do things that was destructive to our race because it profited them, again, individually, that capitalism.
Yes.
How do we get our brothers to not shoot ourselves in the foot? How do we not be that? And I'm trying to say this in a nice way, but it's just like, how do we stop being our own worst enemies? Because like, we see somebody doing something productive that can be helpful, and then we know the other person is using us, but we can gain a little bit from it, so we throw away everything.
Yeah,
for our community.
Yeah, and I think, and unfortunately, because of the depth of the psychology behind it, I think some of it has to be kind of done in phases, meaning um, some of the reward for making some of those efforts does, for some people, has to be somewhat monetized. There has to be some level of personal benefit that comes to it, at least at the beginning level. And then what happens in those spaces, because I've seen this, where you've had to pay people or induce people in certain ways, give them the carrot to say, come on, try this with me, move. But then once they've come into the space, they begin to see the benefits, they begin to see the value, they begin to see the transformation that's occurring amongst the young people. That makes a major difference, because I've seen some people really shift their levels of, like I said, restoring their own consciousness as adult educators and youth advocates by seeing what was actually happening with the young people, something that they didn't even think was possible. So that's one part of it. But the total answer, I haven't come up with it yet, and that's the level of frustration.
So, I actually, this as a preacher, we talk about somebody like a John Brown, white abolitionist, one of my heroes. He was like, hey, I tried to do this the right way. He said, but I've come to learn that in America, the only thing they understand is blood.
It's blood.
And I think in a war, there's many ways to fight a war.
Yes.
So that's not the only one as far as a guerrilla warfare or whatnot like that. But one of the things also that Bobby Wright talks about, Dr. Bobby Wright talks about, he was like, you either have to fix the problem or you have to remove it. And so I think of it like this. There's an old saying that says it's hard to heal in the same place that made you ill.
Yes.
So it's just like, if we all got colds and it keep bouncing around, it's going to keep bouncing around. Somebody got to leave. Somebody got to put on the mat. We got to do something different.
Absolutely.
So we often hear the term crabs in a barrel. And they say, and that's kind of like what I alluded to in a sense, but this is my, if you want to say, proposition. Crabs in a barrel is a term I hate, because they say, oh, we crabs in a barrel. And I say, well, is a barrel the natural habitat for a crab? So if you're not your natural habitat, it's going to create a different mannerism, and it's going to create a dysfunctional, because now it's one of fear, it's one of panic, it's one of chaos. But if you look at crabs in their natural habitat, when they're moving, they move in unison, they move together. They're not holding each other back. They're moving. In fact, they help each other. So what I'm saying is, as long as we stay in an environment that's not healthy, how can we ever expect something to come? And so what is the radical thing that can happen that we can do for the people who are listening, saying, well, what's my small part that I can do as it relates to trying to create a more natural habitat? Because I believe, like in the 70s, where you started to see this kind of level of consciousness, Kwanzaa celebrations going on, people changing names, wearing dashikis and whatnot. But then, like you said, because American success, or what we label as American success, went down when you had a heritage and a cultural pride. People started to say, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. So it's finding ways to go out. How do we go back to that pride in some level and form where people can still enjoy some of the materialism of America? Because nobody's just going to give it up right away, but still go back to self.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep coming back.
No. It's a great question, because we do have to be, not necessarily revolutionaries, but solutionaries, because we have to find ways to.
And that is revolutionary.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And finding ways to, we have these, this knowledge and understanding, but, how do we appropriate it towards something positive? And again, I kind of go back to that, doing it in small doses.
Okay.
We have to find spaces, and sometimes those spaces are digital, sometimes they're in the web environment, where people are practicing these life-affirming attributes, where you see people working communally. And I think a lot of that does go on, but what we have to do is we have to market it in such a way, these healthy spaces and smaller institutions, we have to market it in such a way which makes it appealing, which particularly attracts young people, based on the modes and paradigms that they're accustomed to. But it can be done, but it has to be very intentional, Kwaku. It does. It's a lot of work.
And to your point, I do want to make sure that I give credit to the people who are doing that already in the small spaces, like you at Transition. I know Running Rebels was a big, important piece of your life. And, I think about what Victor has done over there. And it's just like, it is some places that's there. And so now the question becomes, how do we recognize all of these places in the city? And then what do we do to contribute? I always said, until we as individuals are willing to give up some of those things, like you said, though, our ideal of what success looks like.
I think
go back to the community standpoint.
Yes, absolutely. Supporting those spaces and institutions that are already doing the work, and helping them to expand on the work, and then doing a better job of replicating, what's already currently happening, and then for our community to just do a better job of welcoming, some of the outside understandings, newer understandings. If we have younger individuals who are coming into paradigms, because oftentimes part of the own worst enemy piece, Kwaku, has been, and we've talked about this one as well. You remember when we had a discussion a couple years ago about seasons?
Yeah.
That's another big one as well that we have to look out for. And what I mean by that is,
break that down, because that was one again, a time you taught me and made me look at life completely different as far as where I'm at and what's my responsibility to the collective. So please talk about that from how you did it.
Yeah, one of the things that came out of a discussion I had with one of my elders, but then that God kind of really sharpened this piece with me when it comes to doing work on behalf of people in community. I feel like various individuals have seasons in their lives. And I'll just jump to the summer season. The summer season is that period when you have your greatest level of output of work. You're at your sharpest. You're going the hardest. You're grinding the toughest on behalf of seeking to create better conditions for people in the community. Whatever that work is that you're doing, however you're advocating, however you're building, that's your summer season. So then you have individuals who enter the fall season. Okay, now those are people who have had their summer, but now in fall, your role is a little different. You may still have some of the capacity and ability, some of the pop and energy you had in your summer season. However, your role has shifted now to be a supporter of those who are operating in their summer. How do I support? How do I get behind them or beside them to make sure that they're able to reach their fullest potential and get everything out of their summer season, because it's valuable? And there's a sense of urgency because of the conditions of our people. We got to let summer be able to go hard in summer, and fall people need to support that. But here's part of the issue. As a effect of capitalism and folks need money, oftentimes people who have entered what should be their fall season sometimes still needing to, or too often operating in summer. And that can be unhealthy, because now you have a situation where you have competing interests. You got your fall folks sometimes bumping up against the summer folks, looking for that contract, going after that grant.
Don't want to hand the baton.
No, absolutely. And that can be extremely problematic, in community. And I say it's a product of capitalism because sometimes, and it's not even an age-related thing, but sometimes it is, which is oftentimes where you find that older person that's still seeking to move in a certain manner. Not that they don't have something valuable to give, but they're bumping up against that 34-year-old who is trying to do that same thing, who may have in that particular season more of an answer or more was needed during that time. So we have to wrestle and be in dialogue about all of that.
So see, I love it, because I just think about modern day politics right now. We talk about cognitive decline, whether it's in Trump or Biden or whatnot. We got these old people who don't want to let go and let the young people. And it's amazing when you hear the young people, whether you like their politics or not, but you hear the Jasmine Crockett's, the AOCs, the Hakeem Jeffries, you hear this young, strong, voice and this energy. You can feel it inside of there. But yet the power rests within these old hands. And I know biblically it said the young man was built for war, the old man for counsel.
Yes.
And so we've kind of gotten away from that as far as believing who should be in what role. But I think that goes back into when we talk about what America is all about, because it is a confusing state to be in, and it
Yes.
keeps you in constant confusion, so you cannot maximize
So you cannot
the ability
maximize.
of anybody. The more we are in chaos, the more America runs smoothly. Like they say, wartime is boom time. America loves to be in war, no matter what she says abroad or politically, is there. And I guess my whole thing is going to come to us. So a person who's listening right now saying, okay, these are some global perspectives, summer and fall. What can I do for myself now? So what I want you to do, if you can, give me some advice for a person who's in spring, like with Carvey. You see this young buck over here, he's young, strong, and got the world ahead of him. And then you got the people who are in different phases of the summer. And then we got people who are going into the fall, and even those in the winter. Well, hey, you know what? Y'all are going to have to listen on the other side of the break.
Okay.
As we close out, brother, Baba Rogers going to give us our directives, our action items for what we can do individually when we come back on the other side of Nyumba Upendo on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM.
I'm Stephen Hopkins, Program Manager for Critical Response Team. I'm at WNOV right now.
So, Stephen, what's something simple that you're thankful for today?
Being alive and free.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Is there something you're looking forward to this holiday season?
Seeing my loved ones and, spending some time with them.
Perfect.
Amen.
WNOV, this your boy Jermaine Rideout, producer extraordinaire. What am I most thankful for? I am thankful for family, my kids, my loved ones, my mom and dad, health and strength to be alive, the staff and management of WNOV. I'm very, very, very grateful for them. And yeah, man, that's what I'm grateful for.
One more thing, man.
Yes, sir.
Are you excited for this holiday season, man?
I'm most definitely excited.
What's one thing you're looking forward to during this holiday
Eating
season?
everything, man. I'm looking forward to eating everything that's out on the table.
Okay.
I'm going to eat everything.
Facts. Perfect. Thank you, man.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Deslyn. I'm here at WNOV, and I'm from United Garden Homes, Inc.
So, Deslyn, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What holiday memories are you most thankful for?
I'm most thankful for the holiday memories and spending time with my family, my mom, my dad, and all of the Smith and Adams family. Hey, that's what I'm thankful for.
One more question.
Yes.
Is there something you're looking forward to this holiday season?
I'm looking for some peace and quiet and family time.
Give me some of that.